they are here somewhere, but they're not in this room, so I'm sure they'll come in a second. So I'll call the meeting to order. First topic is let's go through the minutes as the minutes are distributed to the committee from the last meeting. Do we need a minute to read the minutes, or is everyone okay with Rich? Thank you so very much for pulling those together, and we'll give you the job again this time. That's all. We ready? So let's go through the agenda. The first item after the minutes is mosquito management. So we've got a mosquito problem. And anyone that has dogs that walks past 4 o'clock knows that the infestation is really bad. Glacier has sprayed. We signed a contract yesterday for by we, I mean Tamarron signed a contract yesterday with the district for a one-time spraying. They will spray along 550. They will spray into the infested area with their product here soon. And hopefully that'll alleviate the problem. Their spray is a combination of vegetable oil and chrysanthemum extract. And we feel that it's quite safe. So that is going to be the mosquito management. We hope that it solves the problem this year. We have been advised by the district. Their preference is that we incorporate into the district. It would have to be a group effort, including Rockwood, Glacier, and Tamarron. The district stops just south of Rockwood. I have a friend who had dinner the night before last outside at the clubhouse at Dalton Ranch. He said he was there from about 6 to 9, and they did not see a mosquito. So I think that's the difference that we see being in the district versus out of the district. That's the mosquito management plan.
We'll take questions at the end.
Okay, but this is correct.
Yeah, let's go ahead, go through the minutes and just try to move it. We're already starting late. Anybody else have anything to say from maybe on mosquitoes, and we'll move on. So next is the topic of turf maintenance. We have spent a lot of time over that this spring, and we've had a report from a contractor last meeting. We've worked hard on a compromised position, and that is the management plan that will be recommended to the board was circulated to the committee here yesterday. I don't think we need to spend a lot of time on it today. Basically, what we found is that what was proposed the last meeting doesn't meet our objective in terms of our mission. But what we have done is we've gone through and looked at weed control. We've looked at a compromised position. And what we're going to recommend to the board is that there's questions that have to be answered with regard to just a compost tea treatment and biochar. Both of them have downsides. The compost tea, we've got to probably get certification from the state of Colorado for bacterial contamination. The report there is that E. coli, Listeria are possible with a biotype treatment. We were put on notice. I mean Tamarron was put on notice before my time. Maybe Rick or Joe can give a little bit more to that. We can't even use glacier water on our grass because of bacterial issues. So, ditto for any other type of any other type of treatment that poses that risk. So those are questions that'll have to be answered. But I think that there was a good point made by a number of members and pet owners about possible rash issues, dermal issues, possible ingestion with the liquid weed and feed. So what we're recommending there is we go with a dry form. that is applied in the spring broadly over the area. And then we continue with the spot treatment, just as the committee had recommended in their plan last year, with the exception that we go with a dry form versus a wet form. There are other, I spoke with Paul Brown yesterday. He would like to try a iron chelate type of weed treatment somewhere, and it is plausible. He also told me it's going to be expensive. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I've spent some time looking into probably the two best known alternatives to any kind of a 2,4-D type product is the iron chelate and the corn gluten, and there's no magic bullet. They all have downsides that range from expense to what the true efficacy is. Obviously, at Iowa State, they came up with corn product. They think it's the greatest thing ever. The University of Oregon thinks it doesn't work at all. So, you've just got a lot of issues that have to be waded through. And I would agree that trying a controlled test with some of these is probably a good way to go about it. They are both substantially more expensive than what our historic treatment has been. So, we have to deal with that obstacle as well. But, as a committee, I think, just upon us to always keep looking for better alternatives and that meet all of the objectives that we have. And we're probably not going to find it tomorrow, but hopefully we'll find the right combination that makes everybody happy, at some point not too far down the road.
No, the committee.
Yeah, so I had read the report yesterday and I didn't see that about the iron chelate and the corn, and I'm so glad you're saying that. I just
It's in
saw,
the minutes.
oh, it's in the minutes, not in.
And I did
And not
copy
in,
everybody on a letter that
oh, okay, and then it's not in.
I
this
did some
report.
research and sent it.
Yeah.
We ran out of room on paper.
Yeah.
Okay, because what I saw were the two, what
Yeah.
was it, the alligator, Prescott and the weed.
We'd be gone as the common product that you
Yeah.
can buy everywhere.
Weed may be gone. I was concerned because that it has 2,4-D in it as
Well-
well.
Almost everything does.
Well, I know you had a vet in here said there were no problems. I sent an email this morning. And I just went online
see it.
about 2,4-D and there are problems. So
Everything has pros and cons.
not what he's saying in terms of toxicity.
Yeah, but we don't know if it's gonna work.
Yeah, well, then we need to test it.
And in the meantime, we need to do something.
So what was put on all of our gardens? We weren't told about it.
That was just fertilizer.
Oh, okay, good.
We have done nothing in terms of.
It's too late to do any.
No, that's what I was wondering. We didn't know what it was. Okay, great, thanks.
So, what the plan is in the short term. Is move forward with the plan that was proposed, that we agreed upon last year. We will not spray broadly with Scott's next year. At all, but we will go with a granular form. Weed and feed, if you will. It's sold at Home Depot or the Hart, that goes directly to the root. It is not anything that you see in the vegetation on the surface. There's no dermal exposure, there's no ingestion. And then we can move forward with some other.
I know that's what you think, but I guess I'm opposed to that as of what I read about it. Effects on your immune system, your nervous system, also cancerous. So
Well,
anyway,
If I could comment again, Mark, we all recognize that there are people who are passionately against this. I mean, you know, and I empathize. That's why I'm spending time looking for
Thank you for doing that.
for viable alternatives. But we also have to recognize that the vast majority of the population, the numbers would say that are okay with putting 2,4-D products on their yards because they're willing to take whatever risk there is. People have decided, they vote with their pocketbook, that they're willing to take that risk in order not to have weeds in the yard. I do it at my
Do you know
home.
that you, I mean,
Well, you know it overall.
no, I don't know.
Well, yeah,
No,
people, that product is used far and wide. They sell the bejeebers out of it.
And Roundup went through that whole thing.
So we know that,
But we know that it'll kill the weeds, and it'll cheat now because nobody else uses it. But people will still use it.
you
you're
know,
not educated. Guys,
Well, we all-
It's over 7,000 unregulated toxic things where they don't say what the harm is on the
We-
bottom. You have
we
to-
all take risks every day of things that can endanger our lives or endanger our health.
Getting in a car.
Getting in the car and heading down the road. If you drive over 30 miles an hour, you're risking your life driving down
Yes,
the
so you have
road,
a-
but
a
we all
risk.
do it. If you sit down with the Google machine and start entering red meat cancer, you're gonna get a pile of stuff. If you enter birth control pills and cancer, you're gonna get tons of stuff. I mean, we make decisions every day that there's some risk with products that we use, but we want the result
More than
more than we are worried
Yeah,
about the
Well,
risk.
you're in.
We'll wear a
I
mask
just want to say
and use
one
Roundup.
thing. We are in an extinction crisis in the world, in the US. Everybody is responsible for doing the best they can not to use harmful pesticides. 2,4-D gets it affects bees. We're having a problem with bees. 90% are extinct. We should be doing all we can not to have that happen.
Okay.
And
That's why
So where did the moral and ethical questions come in when you guys were creating?
Let's hear.
we'll have discussions. at
I
the
haven't
end.
heard the mention of that once. That's a very important part of this that Margaret is getting.
Well,
Dan, let's stop. We're not gonna have a two-way here. We're gonna keep this to the board or to the committee, and then we'll go to the audience, just to maintain order. Go ahead, Margaret.
No, that's it. That was my last.
Yeah,
point.
and let me just say this, if you Google any of these things, there are pros and cons. We've got to go by two things. First, we've got our mission statement. If you want to change our mission statement, it's up to the board to change the mission statement. Our mission statement is to improve the appearance of our landscaping for members and their guests. That is what we're out to do. And I think we're doing a pretty good job. We toured the property today, and over the past 2 years, there's been market improvement. We're seeing incremental change that is for the better of Tamarack. Any of my, so that's what we're doing. You can go to Google and you can find, Richard, pros and cons to anything. I've got to depend on what the peer reviewers see on both sides of the story. In terms of 2,4-D, it's not been brushed over. It's been looked at hard. EPA has listed it, evaluated it, and delisted it. I'm not gonna sit here and get into something that's cooperating. Well, that's fine. You go argue that with the EPA. Don't argue that with Tamarack. So EPA has listed it and delisted it. Who has listed it and delisted it? California has listed 2,4-D and delisted it. They evaluated it because of claims. They found that the claims didn't have adequate basis to list it, and it was delisted. So, to this day, 2,4-D is probably the most widely used broadleaf herbicide in the world. Now, we cannot compete with Mother Nature without some sort of treatment. One of the areas that we walk behind Gamble Oak, behind my place today. I'm getting all, and Margaret, you said, how many people? I'm getting hammered, like, what's going on here? Because all of a sudden, all of this thistle and weeds that was limited to the area between the golf course and our lawn is moving its way into our decks. It is. What's going on here? So what we've developed what we believe is the short-term compromise position. It includes granular, not liquid. That takes care of everything that I've heard about people's pets being exposed during that 24-hour period of time. It's spot treatment, which is these nasty areas that we'll try to get under control. And is it 100% perfect in one direction? No, but it's a compromise. And it's a compromise that in the end of the day meets our objective of our mission statement. And again, I'll say it a second time, there's no way we can deviate from that mission statement because that is the marching orders that were given to us by the board. That's really all I have to say. And with this plan, what we would like to do now is we'll post it. It needs to be posted for, so, 378 owners can review the plan. We'll pass it on to the board. The board will get input from the owners. And the board will make the decision because they represent the owners. And I think that's the proper process that we ought to take as a committee. We propose, the board disposes. And that's how it works. Any other thoughts on that?
No.
I see a board president back there. Is that a reasonable process?
Board president.
Andy, did I hear somebody from the screen?
That was Dan Noonan.
Next is ornamental bed maintenance. We toured the area today. Again, incremental improvement. High Point is done. Gamble is done. Is it a work in progress? Yes. One of the things we chatted about out in the field today is maybe we need a full-time gardener, but that'll be dictated by budget. But maybe Brooke could come down. Brooke, with Blooming Designs, did the work this spring. And she could come down now that the growing season is in full speed and see what her work looks like now that things are going. Good solid B, but there's some area for improvement, some areas for thinning. Margaret, you had a lot of comments there.
Well, I was thinking about when we looked at Gamble, just thinning some of those and bringing some of the plants still up. That was some of the main points.
There's no different things grow differently than Gamble Oaks.
Yeah,
and they grow.
we talked about that.
One area I'd draw everyone's attention to is the area in front of the laundry area at Gamble Oaks. They did a really good job. And it's the vision that I think this committee has in terms of low maintenance. And they actually cleaned up the rock treatment that was there for probably a generation. Put some permeable matting down, put the chips down that we made up in the wood clearing. Those are the chips that resulted from grinding up all the limbs. Take a look at that. That's the vision. There's a lot of areas that we would like to see that happen at High Point and elsewhere. Places where grass won't grow.
No, that's good. That was well worth our time, I thought, this morning. It helps us see the vision as we go forward.
Yeah, as it grows. It'll take a couple years, but
Yeah, but there's no, Gamble Oak sproutlets under it like there were last year.
Yeah.
The only limit is budget, that's it.
Budget's always the limit. So next is irrigation upgrades. Paige, Bobby's not here, but we talked about it.
He's right there.
Get up here, Bobby. He's hiding. So do you want to talk a little bit about what we've done with the moisture sensors up at High Point and where we're going with that?
Yeah, we have turned the water up to every day. We were doing every other day. Water is coming on every day now. Our lack of Open with those, I hear those are gonna hit in about 8 to 9 days, so cross our fingers on that. But we did install five moisture sensors up at High Point, so the rain will cooperate, we might be able to see how it work out. Other than that, we'll just continue.
Yeah. And if they work and if we can see that they work and that they're not just a gimmick.
Yeah.
That they'll go throughout the property. Now, when we talked about this before, we're talking about putting a moisture sensor on the main valve into each one of the units. Since then, Bobby and Ryan have learned for a lesser price that they can get sensors for each individual timer box. And what do they cost? $80 a piece, something like that. So again, let's see if they work, see if they hold up, see if they're not a gimmick. But if we can shut down the water during the monsoons, that seems to make a lot of sense to me. The other thing that we talked about in the plan, and we might go through the bullets here at the end, is getting the risers for behind the bushes. And that, again, we're spraying into the bushes right now, and that's just wasted water. If we can get the water to arch over, it'll get an extension. And you get the risers, they're about $4 each. Anything else on irrigation? So. In the work plan, I just thought we'd very briefly review the elements and make sure that we're on track. So the maintenance, that's ongoing. Pruning, we talked about pruning is time for some of the big bushes on the east side of Gamble and just nipping the others so we don't have a big overgrowth problem like we had last year in fronts. We talked already about broadleaf treatment. We won't use the Allegra. It's expensive and it's not as well studied. We'll stick with something that we can get at the hardware store downtown. The weed barrier, in front of the laundry room, is great. We talked about sprinkler systems. We tried every other day on the irrigation, and in the June period, we didn't get enough rain, so they've gone to full time. Gamble, the island area has really gotten dry. Other areas have gotten pretty dry. Rises, we talked about the boulders. We talked about that on our tour, and I guess here over the summer, we'll start doing that project. And everybody has a lot of places where they want boulders. The rain sensors we talked about. We talked about the rock work and fabric. The ornamental beds. Again, we've done those. We're getting a lot of good reports at the front of the lodge residents. I'm not sure how you feel about the appearance of the entrance, but it's certainly a lot different than it was last year. That's all I have. Team, anything more? Okay, Joe.
Sure. First on the fertilizer, the dry form fertilizer. It's fine if you want to fertilize and not, not control the leaves. Personally, we need to do both.
Well,
If
that
you're going to use the dry form fertilizer, watering needs to be coordinated closely with it. It's not. We're still on a 2-day watering schedule.
mhm,
They had watered the night before,
This is in the south end of Pine. And the south end of Pine Cone, it was watered the night before, fertilizer was put on the next day, didn't water it until day and a half later. That dry form fertilizer needs to be watered in. Package tells you, water it in immediately.
Paul Brown made the same comment to me yesterday.
So, that's it. When you did your walk around today, you down at the south end of Pine Cone?
We didn't do Pine Cone.
Okay. Have you ever got those photos?
Yeah.
There's two areas down in south end of Pine Cone, one in front of unit 840, Honey Dudley's unit. And one in front of unit 845. And, both of those areas were subject to, in the last 6 months, subject to irrigation line, major irrigation line repairs. And there's large bare areas there in the lawns that have not been seeded, have not been leveled up, and, you know, basically glacier backfill the areas, and they're uneven,
This is in the front.
right in the front. Yeah,
We didn't go to Gamble.
Gary's got the two photos.
You think grass will grow there, Joe, or do you think that needs to be done?
Oh, it's thrown there before, it was thrown there before, yeah, especially in front of Bobby Dudley. Yeah, 840. Okay, so that's right in front of Bobby Dudley's unit. They did work on this fire hydrant. And this whole area was, and you can see how there's some spotty grass in there.
A major line.
Yes, I know,
Yeah.
but it needs to be, that area needs to be restored.
Oh, right, and
Okay. So now do 845 here. This one's even worse. This is in front of unit 845. And the only green you see there is weeds.
Needs to be fixed.
It needs to be graded, leveled up, seeded, and straw. A better option would be sod, but I know that's expensive. Something needs to be done.
You've mentioned sod before, and sod has a lot of merit.
It's immediate.
Is it available in Durango? Is there a sod farm?
Sure there is. Yeah.
It's,
It's a lot more expensive. Than what it does.
Yeah.
we just need to talk to people that have some control over the budget.
Yeah, right. Anyway, there you go.
You have the equipment to, harrow ground and drop seed? When did that get done, Joe?
When were those line leaks?
oh gosh, that was.
Last fall.
Over the winter, right?
Yeah.
All winter. Yeah. I mean, something should have been done about it early spring.
It would seem we have an opportunity to do the work in the seeding now, right before monsoon season kicks in, and might have a good chance of it
Yeah, I mean,
coming
at
up.
a minimum, get the area restored grade wise, so it's, it's uneven. And put down some seed and put some straw on top of it. That's the way I've seen it done here. Not the way we do it in Arizona, but it's the way it's done here.
Yeah, so I know that not the entire committee was made aware of this proposal, how it be proposed by the committee, but it wasn't everyone.
It went out last night.
What proposal?
The proposal. that-
It's not a proposal, it's a memorandum to the board.
Yeah, so the 45-page memorandum thing, that was, not everybody was involved. I don't understand.
Well, most were, and we just discussed it. No, we don't keep anybody out. The people that do the work did the work. Makes sense to me.
But not everyone on the committee.
Everybody on the committee just had the opportunity to comment. Everybody on the committee did comment. It's written. It's a proposal. It's a memorandum that's going to go to the board in the next meeting. It's going to be placed on the TACO website for comment. I don't know what more that you could expect. The people that do the work did the work.
And it made and made input to Mark about what we thought.
Right, but did everybody pop out?
Everybody had the opportunity,
Right now,
or up until now.
Right now, so it's already been written, someone in who wrote. Like who came up with.
I wrote the memo.
Okay,
It was
so you're-
circulated to certain committee members that were interested, and it's done.
Okay,
The
so you wrote
perp,
it.
Mandy,
Okay.
the purpose of the.
Sorry,
meeting-
Mandy, when you send memos and texts and
Yeah.
emails to members of the board, I've never been copied on them. Should I be copied on them?
You're not one of the ones who.
I'm, okay. Okay. Enough said. Enough said.
That ends it.
Enough said. Enough said. Enough said. Enough said. Enough said. Enough said. You explained it. Thank you.
So,
Look,
so
look.
the next email I'm sending.
Ma-
out
Mandy,
is
Mandy,
today.
Do you have any questions,
The
Mandy?
board,
Man-
the whole LSC and others.
Mandy, I recited the process very
But you
carefully.
wrote the proposal yourself.
It doesn't
No, you
matter.
didn't.
There has to be an author to everything. And I didn't write it myself. It was looked at by others, but I wrote it. There has to be an author to everything. I authored it. I took the initiative to author it. If I hadn't taken the initiative to author it, it wouldn't have been written.
Right, but you're.
Right,
you
right.
actually wrote it.
We just met as a board. We've got input as a board. The president of this association listened to what the committee said. It will be posted for homeowner comment to the board. We're the proposers. We propose, they dispose. That's how it works in society.
Did you, right? Did you put the comments in the proposal that you don't want this on the committee?
That will be I will put it in the email to the board.
But it should be in the proposal, but not everyone.
The proposal's written. I will
I'm
put it
sorry, we
in,
have another question.
I will put it in the email to the board.
Disagree. And if you disagree. Why do you disagree?
I already explained.
Let's go with it, won't we?
Yeah, it's about C4D. Okay, which, as far as I could see, from what I've researched, and I've been a professor in environmental science. I've taught IPM, which is Integrated Pest Management. And there, as far as I understand, there are toxicity issues relating to bees, birds, all of which are in tremendous decline in this whole US. And that's why I would ask Amaron to raise a step higher. And I really appreciate what he said about looking at alternatives.
Gotta remember, I don't.
You're not on the board. So that's what we were talking about with board.
But it starts with the community.
That's-
That's
So I want everybody to understand, I stopped communicating with people who never answered me. I've been emailing since last September, I can pull them all up. So when people don't respond to owner concerns, I'm not going to keep emailing. It doesn't make any sense. So I have to use the resources available.
So.
Okay.
Go ahead.
There are moral and ethical questions that are here. Margaret says about what's going on in nature and this planet. These facts are very clear. People can have opinions about climate change. What's going on this planet, on our premises. But we are facing very severe issues. And these moral and ethical questions should be considered very serious stuff. And Katrina Blair laid that out. She gave her presentation. Now, people may not believe that these issues are important and may just go with what corporate interests say should be used and suggest they should be used. And you can find pluses and minuses to everything. But if you're not willing to sort of add those up and look at like the approach Katrina was proposing, which would be benefiting the soil, benefiting the pollinators, holding more water in our soil. These are all issues that you guys say are very important. And I don't see how going with a chemical process
balances out and is a compromise. And it misses the entire ethical and moral obligations of what we are facing as a society with climate change. And I have been facing these issues for a very long time, personally, as an atmospheric scientist, and trying to have these conversations. And I run into the same kind of arguments.
Dan, since we're gonna make this personal,
I'm not making anything.
when you're
personal
questioning
here.
people's morals and ethics, you're
No, I
making,
said it
you're
is a
making
moral and ethical issue.
right, and in certainly in letters that Mandy has put out, it's pointed directly at those of us that are trying to do what's right. But let me just say this. I'm a hypocrite. And I'll admit it. That's probably the big difference between you and me.
But are you
You know,
being
I-
serious here right now?
Yes, I am, and I'll finish. You know, I realized what a hypocrite I was after my first trip to work on the agricultural product that we agricultural program that we put in place in Haiti. And every time I make that trip and come home, I realize more and more what a hypocrite
How are you?
that I am, because of the resources that I use in the world compared to those people and what they have to go through. And I know that the things that I use in this world are in excess of what they need to be. You know, I have a gas guzzler sitting out there in the parking lot, and I know you've got 2 or 3 of them. Well, add your airplane to that. But
Okay, now who's being?
well, no, I'm just saying, Dan, if you want to come after people on this
Changes
committee,
are needed. We are all
for-
involved in what is happening.
we are all
We are
involved,
all-
but let's take that approach that we're all involved.
It's a
And
transition.
understand what the role of this committee is.
No,
That's
I
been
understand that
explained,
There is a board mandate here. and there are
that's been
certain ways
explained
that things
multiple
go down.
times.
And I understand that there are
Right.
definitely
I'm,
paths that you guys are gonna
and I'm
take,
just saying,
but there
Dan,
is a moral and
when you
ethical
want to
issue
start
here
coming
that
after
is not
people
being
for their
discussed.
morals or their religion or
That's
anything
not-
like
No,
that.
it's not what I'm
Then-
saying.
then-
Don't twist my words.
Well, I'm not just talking about this conversation. But
Well, you're conflating issues again from something
no,
else.
you're
And I-
conflating issues.
You just did it.
Sorry, you're being disrespectful. Then I need to talk, and all I'm asking is that we finish, and then have a comment. Because this is getting heated, and these people volunteer their time, and I appreciate.
I understand.
Right.
I
There-
And all
and-
I'm asking is just respect.
I don't think I'm being this.
I think
He's accusing.
I'm being accused of. being
No,
this.
I'm just saying we are all, you know, and if you're gonna tell somebody that's on this committee that they lack morals because of
I didn't do that.
recommendations that
I didn't
we're
do that.
making.
I said it is a moral and ethical issue with what we're facing. Do you deny climate change?
This has
No.
nothing to do with climate change.
It has a lot to do with
Okay,
it,
well,
because climate.
This
change
is a
related to
problem.
What's going on? with
this
life
is
on
a
this
problem
planet.
that we're not gonna solve in this room.
But the
in this-
question is,
in
and the
this
one
meeting.
that I started out with, is you guys aren't even bringing it up as an important part of the quotient. And I stand firm on that.
We did
Where?
bring it up.
No, Katrina Blair brought it up.
No,
I
we
didn't hear
brought it up.
anybody else.
We
bring it up.
talked earlier
It's an
when
important
Margaret-
part of the
when
quotient.
Margaret brought up her objections to
Where is it in this memo
That-
that came out?
that
Where are you
I-
even talking about this issue? Where?
we have been discussing it.
No, you haven't. It barely gets mentioned by anybody.
Can I stop this, please?
I have
Can I-
made my
can
point.
Okay, now,
Good.
first of all, we met 9. We met 9 times last year to evaluate what we need to do at our landscaping. We had in terms of where we got into climate change in this discussion is we had a gentleman named Darren Parameter from CSU. He's their extension agent. He came up and you can go and look at the presentation he gave about where climate is changing. We don't disagree. We don't disagree
So
that,
what
that, so,
they do
so,
about it?
so what we have done, and read the plan, is we are proposing low water, low maintenance, native vegetation that is, what's the rest of the words? Suitable for our habitat here without a lot of maintenance. That is what we're proposing as a committee that we believe meets our mission. We've got a weed problem. We've got a big time weed problem. We're surrounded by glacier. Mandy, let me just finish. We're surrounded by glacier. As you can see from the backside, just in one short season of gambling, the weeds are encroaching now into our grass.
Mark, I want to know where you're gonna address the moral ethical issues, of what we're facing on this.
The
planet.
moral ethic.
I really have heard this.
I'm
We've
not
heard
gonna,
this.
I
We
can't-
have heard
Okay.
this.
That's a discussion for another time,
But it's the
not at this
same.
meeting. Dan, if you want to grab me out in the parking lot, we can talk about saving the world. All
but can I-
all you want to.
can I just
But
finish?
right now, we're just
And-
addressing
But I want
the
to get,
landscape.
I want to
of
get to the moral.
This is about Tamron. This is about addressing the issue.
It is, and let me finish my statement, please. So a limit that we can control anything morally is to
We don't control things morally, we act morally and
okay,
ethically.
so we act morally and ethically, and what we're doing in this plan, and I invite everyone to read all 45 pages, including the attachments. Is we looked at what we can control and we looked at the universe of opinion out there. I'm not gonna argue against US EPA. I've worked with US EPA my entire life, and I can tell you, they have been, and I come from the mining industry. And I disagree with them a lot, but at the end of the day, they are the authority. I'm not gonna disagree with WHO. In the end of the day, they recommended that the world can use 2,4-D and it's safe because they haven't found any. I'm not, and the EPA her piece out there, it was done by Oregon State, Dan.
It's funded by the chemical company.
I'm just
That's
saying,
the truth.
that's your opinion.
It's
No,
not.
it's not opinion. I was there for a career.
It was at Oregon
I totally
State.
understand. how
And then, and the
corporations
state
run
of
science.
California.
Are you gonna deny that?
I'm not gonna say that they're funded by the chemical companies. I'm not gonna deny or
Which in a big way is.
that.
There's no question that is true,
So
okay?
Absolutely true.
Okay,
So why do you
but-
argue against?
Because what makes you the authority?
I'm an
Because-
authority on
because-
one thing.
Because that's what we,
One thing that matters here right now.
but that's what
And
we
it is-
are,
Climate change is a moral and ethical issue we are facing.
what we were looking at is we had a proposal. Right. And we had a proposal, given to us at the last meeting. And we had to decide, is that a good proposal for Tamaron or not a good proposal? And, you know, like any person that's looking at making a purchase, you know, I get the proposal, I get the price. And then I go, well, what's the next thing that I do? Well, let me go see other people's experience with this product. And I go and make the visits to the sites and I go, this isn't the way we want Tamaron to look. And 2,4-D or anything else doesn't enter into really even enter into the decision. It wasn't up to the standard that we would expect here. And that's what I made my decision on, that it wasn't the right way to go, is because it doesn't look the way we would want it to look here at Tamaron. Simple as that. All the other things are on top of it. It really had. So that's why I said we have to keep looking for another solution that's better than what we're doing now.
And this memo did not close the door to anything. It just said there's issues that we have to address. You know, go through the memo in terms of if you want to advocate for 100% one-dimensional compost tea and charcoal, go to the memo and look at the issues that we raised and address those issues. If those issues can be addressed adequately, so we can meet our mission, bueno, we'll deal with it. But at this point, we've got outstanding questions that have to be answered. What the committee did is they went to a compromised position. We've reduced the impact of 2,4-D, but we cannot eliminate it with our budget right now and maintain the appearance that owners expect us to maintain at Tamarin. It's really that simple.
If we can address your.
No,
We will
No,
reevaluate.
that was part of it. The other,
Yes, if you read the memo, the memo said at this time.
But before you do chemical treatment, you'll reevaluate. Because I'm working on that right now.
there's an issue that I don't know how you overcome, Andy,
What's that?
and that is what those properties look like.
Right, so when you kill land consistently for decades, it takes time for it to heal and to become a robust landscape again. 97% of our soils across the planet have been destroyed by these chemicals. So it's not something that's gonna happen overnight, but in the long run, your water bills go down and vitality and biodiversity go up.
But
What do we tell the owners in the short run?
We educate them. I can do that. I can let them know, look, we are doing a plan that is healthy for everyone. Here's what to expect. And people will be like, oh my God, that's.
That will require an amendment to our mission statement.
Perfect.
Go to the board.
I will.
You want any of the questions that are in the chat?
Yeah, if we have chat room questions, let's move forward to those, please.
He said,
A little late for that.
let's see. Says
The
there are
answer to
three
the
of them.
Second one is yes.
I would appreciate if the board, this is from Dan Noonan, appreciate from the board, if the board would consider purchasing 2 or 3 more microphones to be placed around the table in a room. This would allow us to hear better.
And Andy seconded that motion.
Yeah. That's all in chat.
I think that's probably something we've heard before.
Well, and that's, yeah.
It'd also be nice to know who's in the room.
Good idea.
Yeah.
If you can hear, everyone could stand up. Andy's a board member. He'd like to know who's in the room. Maybe we could introduce themselves. I'm sorry for that.
Converse.
In 640 High Point. You hearing Andy?
Yeah, barely.
Him. I'm Robert Hines, I'm in 642 and I've been an owner for 21 years. This I've never seen in my whole life, and I hope to never see it again. I'm John Wilkes, I'm in 578. Charlie Keats and 5.
3 Q's, 581, 582. Joe Carey, 843. Other 583.
Mandy McGill, 711. We lead the sentence against the chemical approach. That McGill, I'm in the lodge here, and I have lived on this property for 20 years.
Lori Kirkpatrick, 761 Gamble Oak.
You can see the rest of us, right, Andy?
Yeah. I heard people talking. I just was curious who was talking. I'm good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any more questions? I make a motion, we adjourn the meeting.
All in favor?
Aye.
So this will be posted and comments are welcome.
All right.